Good morning, everyone. I trust you are well, and a warm welcome to you all. As we always on a Friday, we are doing this parked up in the middle of the shopping because that's the way the timing works out. So, it's very apropos that we should be doing it on a journey because we know that the Jewish people, in fact, were on a journey. The 17 Cedras, they were journeying through the 17 Cedras, they were parked at Sinai, having had divine revelation and the giving of the Torah. The 17 Parshias, they were surrounding Mount Sinai, and now Behalotcha is a landmark. It is the moment that the Jewish people embark on a journey and the great odyssey towards the promised land. So whenever you change the status quo, as we're all aware, there's a bit of us that really resists change. For most of us don't like change. We're creatures of habit and we don't like it. We're told in this week's parsha that Api Hashem Yisuv, Api Hashem Yachnu, that it was God that told the Jewish people where they would be going and where they would be stopping. And along the journey, when they journeyed, we're told that there were trumpets that Moses would blow to indicate to the tribes and the Jewish people that now we're about to break up camp, we're about to go, right? I guess you could say this was the original bugles, right? And therefore they had to break up camp and get ready to travel. At the end of Moses' life, we're told that these trumpets, in fact, were no longer going to be used. They were going to be buried. And the obvious question was they weren't past their sell-by date. They were still in fine, pristine working order. Why is it that when Joshua was passed the mantle of leadership, why is it that Joshua couldn't receive these trumpets to use? The people were familiar with them. The people were used to them. And the answer is because every leader is different and plays a different tune. In other words, the fact that whatever the language and the means of leadership that Moses was able to use and to play to his strengths and his skill set was not necessarily the right one for Joshua. In each generation, we get the leaders that we need, the leaders that are able to be cognizant of the challenges that our generation face. And therefore, even though you may have greater people in a previous generation, that doesn't mean that they would be the right people to lead us. As we already mentioned, it's really, really difficult when we have challenges in life. In fact, we find that the Jewish people were resistant. One of the reasons why we find that in Behalotcha and after this, there are so many complaints. We mentioned earlier in the week, the Jewish people refused to take yes as an answer, a generation that complained and had nothing really to complain about. After all, God provided the manna, God provided the water on tap, he flattened the land so it was easy for them to travel. So why is it that generation were the generation that were the misleading? They complained day and night. And the answer is because, as we already mentioned, they were a generation that was familiar with consistency. They were slaves in Egypt. And therefore, that slave mentality didn't dissipate when they left Egypt, right? They liked the routine. They liked their habits. They were used to doing things. This is the way I've always done it. Don't come along and tell me I've got to change. And that was it. That was what it was all about. And therefore, they constantly complained. We mentioned yesterday, they complained. We remember the fish in Egypt, right? How could they complain about the fish in Egypt? And we said it wasn't the fish per se, it was symptomatic of the lifestyle that they had. Despite the fact that they were slaves, they had that certainty, they had that consistency, and nobody wants to live in a life of uncertainty. I think that's one of the things that this whole pandemic has thrown up to us, the idea of uncertainty, of free falling, of not quite knowing where we're heading. And then, of course, on top of that, we then have the last 2 weeks of virulent anti-Semitism, right? In the face of the conflict in the Middle East. And therefore, people are even more disturbed by it. Why? Because we like to feel we are in control, don't we? We like to feel that we're running the show. We don't really want to feel that we're in the hands of God. We want to feel that, you know, we're the ones that are running the show. We're calling the shots. And all of a sudden, we don't know which way to turn. We're not quite sure what tomorrow brings. And the truth is that we say every day when we when I'm in my office and I've got in front of me Psalm 23, Gam ki elech begetzam maves lo irara ki ata imadi. Even as I walk through the valley of death, I will fear no evil because you are with me. Those aren't just words. That is the mindset for all of us, right? Mervyn, you hear what I'm saying? This is the mindset, Estelle, that we're able to turn around and say, it doesn't matter what you throw my way, I know that I'm still in God's hands. You know, it's interesting. A baby that was traveling across Europe. You know, imagine a mother starts off with a baby in Vienna, very comfortable lifestyle with a nanny, etc., and she's breastfeeding the baby. And then, of course, in order to escape the Nazis, right, they have to travel. They've got these, you know, fake documents and passports and travel documents and visas, and they travel across Europe. And they're on a train, and the mother is filled with fear, right? For the baby, right? The baby doesn't know any different. The baby is getting the sustenance just the same from the mother. And in reality, that's what we mean. That whatever happens, we know that we are in God's hands. And in essence, we're coming full circle because this is what we started off with, the washing of the hands. The idea that when we wash our hands, to recognize that we are in someone else's hands, we're in God's hands. And therefore, the same way that he has brought us, looked after us, supported us, cared for us, sustained us, you know, for the last however many more years we've been around in this planet. So we should have full faith and confidence that he can and will continue to do so. Let me tell you a little story. Okay, I don't want to make it too heavy on a Friday morning when everyone's rushing to do their shopping. So you know, we one of the things that we need to have faith in is not just God, but an essential element of that faith is also, says the Kotzker Rebbe, is part of having faith in God is having faith in ourselves, because we are an extension of God. If God put the spark of life in us, in other words, we have a soul, we have a chilek Elokai Mimal, and the essence, a part of the essence of God is in each and every one of us. It's incredible. The real, and we know that as soon as he takes it out, I've got a traffic warden. Hold on 1 second. This could be entertaining. Hold on 1 second, everyone. I don't want to get a ticket. Hi. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just doing. Have I got to move this second? I'm just doing a video message. Can I have 2 minutes? I'm live. Thank you. Come here. Everyone, I want you to say hello. What's your name?
I'll say my name.
Oh, say hello. Say hello. Okay, I want to thank the gentleman over here for giving us Barnet. You had it here first. Barnet, we always speak about the those that are giving tickets. He has kindly given me 2 minutes, so we're going to have to end very quickly. Otherwise, we will get a ticket on top of everything. But when he saw that we were giving a class this morning, he had mercy on us. So the message goes as follows, okay? Very, very briefly, okay? Before I do get a ticket. It goes as follows, that there was a story about a man, Rav Twersky. Rav Twersky is a great psychologist, and he psychiatrist, and he was taking medical students around to a mental institution. And when he took them around, they saw a man with his arms right up in the air, and they asked Rav Twersky what it's about. And he said, "This guy has been doing this. You know, he's completely institutionalized. We can't get him. Whatever we've told him to do, he doesn't listen. He will not move from waving his arms, keeping his arms straight in the air." And all of a sudden, one of the medical students says, "Let me have a go. I want to have a go." And they laughed. You know, he's been there for 20 years doing the same thing every day, putting his hands in the air until he collapses. And he went over and he spoke to him. And the medical student, you know, all of a sudden persuaded, put up his hands, and the man who had been having this patient put down his hands, collapsed on the chair, and the nurses came and supported him. And Raptorsky came over and said, "What did you do? What did you do? That what magic did you do that you managed to persuade him to put his arms down?" He said, "I realized that all this time, everyone has been speaking to him as a patient. But I went and I said, listen, it's incredible, extraordinary that you managed to keep your hands up in the air for so long. You know why? Because you have been supporting the world, and it must be a huge burden for you to carry the world literally in your hands. I want to take it off you so you can have a little rest. And therefore I said, I'll lift up my hands, and therefore I will be supporting the world and you can have a break." And when I empowered him and showed him what he is doing, the incredible, extraordinary thing that he is doing for the last 20 years, that gave him the courage to see himself as a person. It's an incredible message. And with that, we'll end before Mr. Barnett comes over and gives me a ticket for parking here longer than I should. We've already made a deal. But the message is clear that we need to have faith in ourselves and faith in God, that whatever we go through, he will be by our side. Wishing everyone well, and thanking Barnet Council for not giving us a ticket and allowing us to finish this morning. Have a great day. Look after yourselves.